Rain had a way of changing Hollow Street into something almost alive. The sound of it wasn't just water hitting the cracked pavement. It was as if 1,000 whispers poured down from the sky, blending with the howl of the wind. Claire stood at the far end of the street, her umbrella useless against the storm, her eyes fixed on the house that every local warned her about. She had never believed in ghost stories, but tonight her curiosity was stronger than fear. The house loomed at the edge of the street, its windows shattered, its roof sagging as though bowing under the weight of years of silence. Some said the building had once been beautiful, painted bright white with a garden of roses. Now it looked like a corpse, stripped of warmth, left to rot. The front gate leaned off its hinges, creaking as if groaning at the sight of a visitor. Claire hesitated only for a second before pushing it open. The metallic screech made her shiver, but she stepped forward anyway. The porch was soaked, boards swollen from years of neglect. As she reached for the door, thunder cracked across the sky, and in that flash of light, she thought she saw movement through the dusty glass of the entrance. A figure, or maybe just her imagination, watching. The door opened too easily, as if waiting for her. Inside, the air was colder, heavy with the stench of damp wood and something metallic, like rust or blood. Dust floated like tiny ghosts in the beam of her phone's light. The walls leaned in unnaturally, as if the house itself was alive and aware of her presence. Her footsteps echoed loudly in the silence. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. On a crooked shelf by the wall, she found a photograph in a broken frame. It showed a family, a man, a woman, and a small boy. Their faces were faded and blurred, but their eyes looked sharp, etched in a natural detail, staring directly at her. She placed it back quickly, her pulse racing. Then she froze. There, behind her, came the sound of breathing, slow, deliberate, as though someone stood just inches away. She spun around, shining her light into the hall, but there was no one, only the shadows, stretching too long, too deep, and yet the air still trembled with the sound of someone exhaling.
Claire forced herself to move, trying to convince her mind that the sound was nothing, an echo, the house shifting. But every step deeper into the hall felt heavier. The house did not just sit still, it seemed to breathe. The walls groaned, the air pulsed. The staircase rose ahead, crooked, its wood swollen and blackened by rot. Each step she took moaned beneath her weight. She gripped the railing, her knuckles white, her body trembling. By the time she reached the landing, her breath was shallow, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. At the top, a single door stood slightly ajar. A faint glow, like candlelight, spilled into the hall. Her hand shook as she pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom, frozen in time, a child's room. The bed was neatly made, though a thick layer of dust covered the blanket. Small toys were scattered on the floor, their colors dulled with age. A rocking horse leaned in the corner, one eye missing. On the dresser was another photograph. She recognized the family, the man, the woman, and the boy. But this time, the boy's face had been violently scratched out, the paper torn where his eyes should have been. Claire felt a chill crawl up her spine. She wanted to turn away, but the photograph seemed to hold her, pulling her gaze. The door slammed shut behind her. She spun, dropping the frame, her light flashing wildly against the walls. The glow in the room flickered, like a dying flame. Her chest tightened. She was not alone. Footsteps, small, soft, circling the bed. Claire froze, too terrified to breathe. Something brushed past her leg. Light, quick, unmistakable. Her phone's light trembled in her hand. A voice broke the silence, whispered, but so close it seemed to come from inside her own head. "He never left." Her scream stuck in her throat. The air grew colder, sharp like ice in her lungs. She lunged at the door, clawing at the handle until it gave way. She stumbled into the hallway, gasping. The glow was gone, the toys were gone, the room looked empty, lifeless, as though it had never held anything at all. And still she swore she could hear those small footsteps following her in the dark. She wanted to leave, to run out into the storm, but the house had shifted around her. The hallway twisted, stretched longer than before. New doors appeared, old ones vanished. Panic pressed against her chest, urging her forward into the unknown. At the far end stood a door she hadn't noticed before, partly open. A breath of air seeped through, damp and cold, carrying the smell of earth. Against every instinct, she stepped inside. The door revealed a staircase spiraling downward, made of stone, slick with moisture. The deeper she went, the fainter the light became, until only her phone's glow guided her. The basement was vast, far larger than the house itself should allow. The walls dripped with condensation, the air thick and suffocating. Along the edges stood cages, their iron bars rusted and bent inward, as if something had forced its way out. Chains hung from the ceiling, swaying gently though no wind touched them. In one corner, her light caught a small object. A stuffed rabbit, its fur matted, one button eye missing. She bent down, but before she could touch it, the sound came. Dragging, slow, steady, scraping across stone. Her light quivered, flickered, then steadied. In that brief flash, she saw movement. A figure standing in the shadows, tall and thin, its eyes glowing faintly as though reflecting her light. Her body locked, frozen. The whisper came again, echoing off the stone walls. He never left. The cages rattled, the chains clinked. The figure moved closer, dragging something heavy behind it. She stumbled backward, nearly dropping her phone, her breath sharp and ragged. The beam of light trembled across the walls, and for a second she thought she saw dozens of smaller shadows moving along the ceiling, watching, waiting. Her scream tore through the cavern, but the sound did not carry. It was swallowed by the darkness, absorbed like the house itself was feeding on her fear. She bolted up the stairs, each step slower, heavier, as though something dragged her down. The door at the top slammed shut before she could reach it. She pounded, clawed, splinters embedding into her skin. Her phone's light flickered once more and then died, leaving her in suffocating blackness. The dragging sound was behind her again, closer, louder. She pressed against the door, her heart pounding so violently she thought it would burst. Then, silence. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The quiet was worse than the sound, worse than the footsteps. She turned slowly, eyes straining into the void. Nothing. Only darkness pressing against her, swallowing her whole. And then, cold fingers brushed her shoulder. Her body went rigid. A breath warmed her ear, and the voice whispered, low and final, "Now you'll stay too." Her scream never came. The next morning, Hollow Street lay quiet under a pale gray sky. The rain had stopped, but the house at the end of the street remained as lifeless as ever. Its door swung open in the breeze, creaking softly. Inside, the dust lay undisturbed, the silence unbroken. On the crooked shelf, the family photograph sat where it always had, but it looked different now. The boy's face was still scratched out, yet beside the blurred man and woman stood a new figure, Claire. Her expression blank, her eyes dull, as lifeless as the rest. No one in town ever saw Claire again, but sometimes, when the rain returned and the wind carried faint whispers, Passersby swore they heard footsteps inside the house on Hollow Street, soft, circling, like a child's, followed by the low echo of a woman's voice. And the story of her disappearance became just another ghost tale whispered among the locals.